Hi there. We're going to look at another JavaScript example, which will be to create a login page. Okay, so again, still quite simple, but using the code that you've already written to try and do some validation. So first thing is open up JSBin, which we've got here. Remember, we're typing everything in between these two body tags there. Try and make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. We'll close the JavaScript tab down, so we've just got the output there. So simple page, we're just going to have a heading that says login. Close down the H1 tag. We're going to have a little paragraph that says, please enter your details. So again, stopping the P tag there. So the way we generally label each field is with this tag called label. So I'm going to put username there and then close my label down. And after that, I'm going to put my input. So we said type equals text, and I'm going to give it an ID of username, and then close that down there. And then, as I've already written that, I'm copying that and I'm going to paste it again. We'll change this to password and make the ID password. So hopefully we've got a username and password appearing here. Now, I really want the password to be on another line. So I'm just going to do it simply by putting a BR tag, which will push it onto the other line. There are better ways of doing it, but for now, we just want to get something working. So I can type in a username and I can type in a password. Now, at the moment, it's not great to show your password like that. So a cunning thing that we can do is change this from a type equals text to a type equals password. That's right. And watch what happens as I start typing. My username comes out like that, but as I start typing my password, that doesn't work because I can't spell. If I change that to password with an R, let's try that again. There we go. The password is hidden like so. So that's ideal. Right, we really want a button down here. So like we've done before, we can do button like so. In fact, I'm not going to do it the way we did it before. I'm going to do it slightly differently. I'm going to do another input, but this time it's a submit type. Now, it's rather strange, but this is how traditionally you're supposed to submit information, is with an input type submit. Now, if you don't like the fact it's saying submit and you want it to say something like click here to log in, you can just write it with a value like so. And again, I want to push that onto a different line, so I'm putting a BR tag there. So at the moment, we've got a username, we've got a password, and we've got a click here to log in. But nothing happens. So for that, we want to do a bit of JavaScript. So exactly the same way we've done previously, we're going to stick an onClick event inside there. And I am going to, what shall I call my function? I haven't given it a name. Let's just call it login. Now it's a function we haven't created yet, but I'll do that in a second. Don't forget the open close brackets after it. That's often a common error that people make. Now, if I run this, nothing's happening yet. We haven't written anything in the JavaScript panel yet. I'll just open that up like so. I'll try and make this a bit bigger so you can see it. I bet, though, when I get a console, every time I click, let's move this out of the way. You don't need to see me up there. Every time I click here to log in, I get an error. And this is kind of what we're expecting. It's trying to run that function there, which was called login, and it's saying login is not defined because I haven't defined it. So to define a function, as we've done before, we use the keyword function and then the word login and then some curly brackets. And we're going to put our stuff between these two curly brackets so it goes there. So the first thing we want to do is grab the info from that username field, which we gave an ID of username. So I'm going to create a little variable called var uname to make it a bit easier. And then this was the quite long bit of JavaScript we wrote, document.get element. Remember the capital E, capital B, and a capital I. And then in brackets, we're going to say whatever we called our input box, which was username. and then we remember the dot value at the end, semicolon at the end of the line. I'll do the same thing for the password. I'll just call it P word. Did that select? Doesn't look like it. P word. And then I'll change this to password, which is the ID. So just to prove that I'm getting what they've typed in, I'm just going to do a little test by putting them both inside an alert. I'll separate it with a little space so they don't just run together. Keyword. Okay, semicolon at the end. So let's just try that. So there's my username, there's my password. I click here to log in and it does print it out. So we know we're getting the data out of there. So what we want to do now is, let's just comment that out. So it'll ignore that line. 2 forward slashes is a comment in JavaScript. We would like to do an if statement. So like we've done in Visual Basic, we're going to test what those two values are, and if they're correct, we're going to print out something. So to do an if statement in JavaScript, we start with the word if, but then it's brackets. So our condition is in brackets. So if we're going to say, let's just test the username for now. If the username is equal to, and then I'm going to just see if it's Bob for now. Let's keep it nice and simple. So if the username is Bob, we need to open some other curly brackets. Okay, so whatever I put inside these curly brackets will run if the username is Bob. So if I just put alert, nice to see you, Bob. Okay, so if now this should automatically run because that's ticked. Let's get rid of the stuff that's in there at the moment. And if I type anyone else's name in, I don't know, Alan, and click here to log in, nothing happens. But if I put the magic name of Bob in there, nothing happens. Aha, why is that? Because I'm only testing for Bob with a little b. So let's change that back to little b Bob. There we go. I get a nice to see you, Bob. If I want to say something else, the way it works in JavaScript is you put the else statement after that. You can put it on a separate line if you want, but I like putting it like so, and then some more curly brackets. And then the thing that happens if you're not Bob is after that there, you're not Bob, go away. Okay, so if we run this again now, and I put Alan in there and click here to log in, it should say, you're not Bob, go away. Okay, so the idea behind it is very similar to Visual Basic, which we've done before. It's just the syntax is slightly different. How do we make it so that we want to check if the username is Bob and the password is cake? So for that, we can say, if the username is Bob, let's check it with Bob with a capital B. JavaScript, the keyword for and isn't the word and, unfortunately. It's 2 ampersands together, like so. So if I say uname equals Bob and p word equals cake. Oh, I've completely forgotten to point out that when we're testing if something's equal in JavaScript, we have to use 2 equals. That will always turn around to bite you, I promise you. You will, I'm guaranteeing you will get that wrong at least once. Okay. So double equals means is it equal to, whereas the single equals is basically assigning something into a variable. Okay, so let's say if the username is equal to Bob and the password is equal to cake, we can say, welcome, you are now logged in. And then we can say incorrect login, please try again. Okay, so if I run the JS and I say George and the password is password, I should get incorrect login, try again. If I try that with Bob and nothing, it says incorrect login, try again. But if I now try it with Bob and cake, click here to log in, it says welcome, you're now logged in. Okay, try one more thing. let me stop there, and maybe I'll put an advanced video on for maybe making an image appear if you type in the correct details. Okay,